Hello and welcome everyone to the First Circuit Podcast, episode number 69. Giggity.
Nice.
Giddy.
Today we'll be covering the new sale and event, the upcoming patch notes for January, the LRM PTS. Larsh has some stuff to talk about his configuration of the MW settings, the Mechwarrior 5 Pre-order upgrades, the Marauder II Pre-order, and the Mechwarrior 5 AMA. Today, I am one of your hosts, Biter. We also have Larsh
Hi-oh.
and Bob.
Heyo.
All right, so let's get cracking with the sale event stuff.
So what do we got for that, guys?
The founders in Phoenix unite. Hurrah!
Oh, yeah.
Unite to fight the clanners. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Yeah, it seemed interesting. Like, I played it last night. It was a lot of fun, actually, doing the different types of like events that they had, especially Mechwarrior challenges. I didn't actually do the founders or the Phoenix. I think at the time when they had these for sale, I had a potato computer, so I really didn't get a chance to purchase those. So I stopped. I basically didn't play. But the Mechwarrior challenges they weren't too bad. And after coming back from New Year's and Christmas and all that kind of stuff with all the different challenges and events and stuff like that, these were pretty easy to do. Just one thing was a match score, though. That was the only problem that I had trying to get stuff. But it was fun. It was good. What do you guys think?
So yeah, there's 3 parts to the Founder and Phoenix Unite event and sale. Obviously, the sale is universal, and there's even a part of it just called the Mechwarrior Challenges that is universal. Anyone can take part in these. And yeah, I've mostly just been doing the universal part, which in total gives about 500 MC. It does require you to do a whole bunch of stuff in all the different weight categories. Get 3 victories in each of the categories, get a solo kill in each of the categories, get a whole bunch of match score, this, that, and the other. But yeah, it gives plenty of C-bills, gives some nice war horns, other bits and bobs, and 500 MC. The only thing is, this event, like sort of last one, because you have like KMDDs, or in this case, solo kills, there's a lot of LRM mechs waddling about trying to get match score or solo kills in a match. So it's been a bit of a Lermageddon again this week with this event.
Absolutely. And I've also noticed a lot of times when people want to get that solo kill, they especially on the very first day of this event, people were just charging in. Like, I want to get that kill! And they just run in. I'm like, no!
Yeah, I definitely did see some suiciders running into a bunch of like assault mechs trying to get like one medium mech kill. It's like, oh really, dude? Come on.
Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, there's I forget when they did this, but like every year or so they always do these like Founders / Phoenix events to reward their most long-term player base. And just like last time, it's play a whole bunch with the each of the Phoenix mechs. I think last year it was just something like C-bills they were giving away, but this time they're actually giving away a whole bunch of stuff that's a lot more valuable, even if they're not giving MC. So, if you are one of the founders, if you do own the founders or Phoenix mechs, there's an extra incentive to pick it up. But at least one note that Ian brought up was that this doesn't even reward necessarily all the most long-term players. Like for the Founders Pack, for example, there were 3 tiers: the Veteran, Elite, and Legendary, with the most expensive Elite and Legendary coming with the mechs. Meaning veterans, all that time ago, just got MC, premium time, and C-bills, and they can't take part in these kind of events, which is a big pity.
Yeah, but they did actually give out for the founders and I think for the Phoenix bolt-ons, which is kind of interesting because I don't recall. I think last year they did a couple like events for the bolt-ons as well, right? They gave away like the headers that they had for, on your back and stuff like that, right? I think last year.
Yeah, last year there was one event that gave away some bolt-ons. You had to do X number of KMDDs, I think, with each mech. and you would get one random silly little bolt-on. Whereas this one, at least I'm looking at the Phoenix pack, and you're getting, like for example, the Locust, you get the Crusader Locust. That's a permanent pattern unlock, and a bolt on the Searchlight left. Whereas the others, I think, are getting like Royal Shields to the back, which it
Those are
looks a
pretty
lot
neat.
better. It's
Yeah.
a lot better than just one random battery pack strapped to my arm for some reason.
I know.
Well, remember, that battery pack is special. You need that.
Oh God, damn.
Oh. But this event has been very good, except for the Lermageddon, because right now I'm actually play testing right now a few things, and I'm currently on HPG, and this is a Learn Fest, guys. But besides that, they're giving away a good amount of stuff for the play that you're doing. So it's been pretty decent.
Well, one of the things that go ahead and counter the Lermageddon is obviously, like I've been running my anti-Lerm mech, and on average, every game has been minimum 1,000 missiles, minimum.
Well, I think I saw your stream on Friday, and I saw the match where it was like plus 1,000 missiles.
Yeah.
You took out.
Yeah, it's just crazy, and if you have enough of those like missiles, that's your match score. I mean, I was getting like 700 match score. I'm like, damn, this is really freaking cool. And so like I was getting match score like easy with those like anti-missile systems. So if you can run those a lot too to go stop that from happening.
Yeah, I saw last night I just jumped in the 4-quad AMS fish, the piranha,
Yeah.
because I was trying to scale it up, and that match they had a lot of Learn boats, and they came back to old Bob and was like, "Hey Bob, I shot down 1.4K missiles," and he's in the triple AMS Nova. It's like, yes, I see a pattern here.
Exactly.
Though speaking of patterns, there's going to be some changes to the long-range missiles, and they're thinking about in the PTS. So
Sorry.
I think all these changes are coming in, or at least they're planning to bring these changes in February, right?
I'm not sure. I didn't do the PTS because I had other things to do to go take care of. But from what I understand, they might do it in February. Like I have to read on Chris's Twitter page and see what it is.
Yeah, I haven't really done much of the PTS, sadly. But Biter, did you read anything about it, or Bob, about the updates that they're doing for that?
Yeah.
I've read through all the actual details of the changes. I'm just trying to see when they say it will actually be implemented. Then I'll get back to you.
Didn't read too much about this. For what I understand, is line of sight is going to be a shorter missile path, basically, instead of a huge like vertical path. And then if you don't have line of sight, obviously it's going to be like a standard like vertical path. But I think a lot of people, Bat Duck and a couple of people noticed it really didn't do much per se as far as how it works, except for just the paths themselves. So if you have line of sight, it'll be like an ATM for all the different weapon systems.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. That's just kind of bizarre that they would actually change it like that, though.
Yeah, and sorry, Bob, and you said it was similar to ATMs almost, you said?
Yeah, if you have line of sight, it'll be similar to ATMs for all different weapon systems, like LRMs for the Intersphere and stuff like that, and then also for the normal normal weapon systems for the clans as well that aren't ATMs. But if it's not line of sight, it'll be an indirect fire like weapon, like instead of a direct fire one.
Yeah, if you are hiding behind a mountain and you get a lock on someone, it fires just like regular. But if you can actually see the guy in front of you, it has a much shallower path. It flies like an ATM. It still goes up a bit, but yeah, if you can actually see them, it goes like an ATM. If you can't, it goes up like normal.
And from one understanding, though, they're trying to make it so so people want to, because like the biggest complaint that a lot of people have is, man, he's shooting me from behind the building and I can't shoot him. That's basically the biggest complaint from LRMs. And so what they're trying to do, what I would think they're trying to do, is trying to make it so it's like, you have to get it if you want to get a better target chance or like whatever, basically to run in and be, take the armor type stuff. And this will actually, I guess they're thinking is stopping from people complaining about people just hide behind mountains and shooting missiles and not sharing armor.
Mm-hmm.
At least I think. Yeah, that's my own personal opinion, I guess.
Oh, yeah, so they are saying very much so that they want to increase the effectiveness of LRMs when you're getting your own lock, when you can actually see the target, and that the effectiveness of LRMs go down when you're hiding behind the hill and just spraying it at the target that someone's holding locks for you. That's That's the intended purpose. Now, Yeah, the change in trajectory, I would say, is a quality of life improvement in general for LRMs. A big point would be something like if you imagine Crimson Strait, if you're on an LRM boat, you never go below the platform, or at least it's very tricky to LRM things below the platform. You have to get the lock, and then when you're firing the missile, stare at the ground so that you can try and angle it as low as possible. And even then, you have a 50-50 chance of getting just the right angle. Whereas with this, it still is arcing, and if you're in the tunnel of Crimson Strait, you're still going to have trouble learning things, obviously. But it's a lot better because it has an ATM trajectory, and if you have ATMs, you can fight underneath Crimson Strait. You can sort of fight in the tunnel because it's flying straight at the foe rather than taking its sweet time flying up in the air. Some people have concerns, I think, with obviously at least there's a target he pokes from a hill. Fires, Hellbringer, he does his laser vomit and he pokes back down. If you get a lock and fire directly at him and lose the lock, the missiles, of course, will just fly over where he, was poking. Whereas with the indirect fire, it, funnily enough, was plunging down onto his position. So you still got, some damage, even if he retreated directly away from you. And that is somewhat the case. You can still poke LRMs quite effectively, I think. But yeah, as I was saying, I think the direct fire versus indirect fire thing is mostly a quality of life change. Otherwise, they are trying to change some values of spread. For example, LRM, let's just take a big LRM launcher, the LRM 15. The base spread is, instead of 5.2, is going up to 5.6. And all the LRMs are basically having their spread increased by a fair amount.
Yeah.
For the most part, though, me and Ian discussed this a little bit before, was that the spread was so bad before, slightly making it worse doesn't necessarily change much. The thing with LRMs is you just take every hit point they have, and now with the greater spread, you take every hit point they have. They claim at least that you're going to have a better spread because of the angle and other things when you're doing direct line of sight. But at least in testing, a fair number of people have noted that it doesn't really seem that different. And I think, ultimately, at least, it's sort of like you got the base, you got the basic spread, you're increasing it by about 30%. And then if you got direct line of sight, it's sort of increased accuracy by 30%. But we're talking about such a terrible spread. In the end, it's sort of like, do I hit all the components, or do I hit all the components, or do I hit all the components? It doesn't actually change that much. It doesn't feel that different with how LRMs work. The spread is just so wide. I don't think it's necessarily that different. I haven't seen necessarily all the testing, because there's obviously what with Artemis, what about with Narc, what about with TAC?
Yeah, I know.
Right.
What different targets when they're moving, when they're not moving, etc., etc. For the most part, though, as I think the spread changes it's a minimal change, really. The speed, I think, as well, they've slowed down the missiles, but since you're firing directly, they take less time to get there, giving the opponent less time to react.
I mean, I think that's a good thing, though, because like as far as the less time to react with a direct fire weapon, because the AMS with ATMs, I'd shoot them down no problem, because it's just they're just have like less of them now. But with a direct fire like weapon with say a LRM 20, I won't be able to fire or kill those LRMs a lot quicker than I would like before. So I guess that's a good thing. It says less time for the AMS to shoot down missile volleys. And now, since they're going to act like ATMs, I won't have the big long arc to go shoot them down with, like with my range.
Yeah. In the long run, at least, I think most of this, as far as I can tell, is just it's slightly changing values here and there. But the biggest thing is, well, there's two big things. One is the direct fire quality of life improvement. That's just really nice across the board. But the biggest change, I think, that most people have looked at this. Because this doesn't just affect LRMs. And the most huge buff that is in this PTS is the 40 to 45% reduction in time to target things if you have direct line of sight.
Yeah.
That is a huge increase on lock-on speed. And lock-on speed, of course, the lock-on system, it doesn't differentiate between different types of lock-on weapons. So this is a 40 to 45% increase on the time that an alarm mech gets to start shooting you. It gets for an ATM boat to start shooting you, for a streak boat to shoot you. So that's what I'm most interested about. Like there's a minor improvement on the LRM's usability, sure, but all lock-ons are going to be much faster on the draw, at least with what has been proposed in the PTS.
Yeah, I yeah, I don't know why they actually did this though. Like what, like was it in the forum saying, "Hey, we need to make this happen," or like are they just like curious, basically, like on this how this would happen? I'm just throwing out a question though. I don't know when it came up though. I mean, this is just out of the blue that they popped this out for the PTS.
You know, it's interesting because there really was no. I mean, I didn't think there was really a huge complaint about this, was there?
I mean, there were complaints about like, "Hey man, you're not sharing armor." You know, that's the only complaint that I heard basically, and this might have been one of the things they said. Oh, well, let's go try this, so this might shut people up, I guess.
On some levels, yes, these kind of changes could possibly change how people look at and think about LRMs, because a lot of people just take a huge LRM boat and sit far back behind a mountain and say, I'm helping. Oh, they lost a lock. Well, they're not, they're not doing my job for me.
Yeah.
And very much so, if you make direct fire LRMs very effective, then in some ways at least it's a lot more viable weapon system to actually choose, because a lot of the time I will just take ATMs or streaks instead of LRMs, because you're putting a lot of tonnage in to get this very slow and dysfunctional weapon system.
Yeah.
With the quality of life improvement of just this direct fire, it will feel a lot better to play in a direct fire scenario. And because if it feels better to play, people are much more likely to do it. The thing is, with just always it arcing really high, is if you take that aggressive stance, you move within 300 meters and you're doing close range LRMs, which is the best way to play it for the most part. You lock onto the target, you press the LRM button, the LRMs just go, we're going into space.
Exactly.
And mentally, and mentally people just saying, well, why wasn't I just behind a hill? Why did I move up? This is silly. But obviously, if they flew directly at the opponent and it felt punchy and much more much more impactful, people would be much more willing to use their LRMs directly.
Yeah, well, one other thing I'm curious about too, like let's say, like you brought up the thing about the Hellbringer, right? Is you get the lock on the Hellbringer, you fire your missiles directly, but then he quickly goes behind a building, and basically you lose that type of thing. But what happens when, let's say, well, I guess that would actually be not a big deal then. Hellfire comes out, shoots, goes behind a building, but you get a lock just as he goes right before. I mean, the split second like before. How's the computer like differentiate between the building and a direct fire?
Yeah, but if you recall, at least when they first implemented this direct line of sight coding or whatever, because it was ECM, it takes longer to lock on to ECM if it's indirect. Yeah. The game really slowed down for some reason. It was really bad. Whatever stuff they've done to fix that, I hope this will still be the case. For the most part, I haven't really had a chance to play in the PTS and see how it all plays out. For the most part, though, if there's a guy you're just barely catching with a lock-on, I don't really necessarily think that at least with LRMs, there's not so much of these edge cases. It's not like a precision weapon. It's sort of they're either behind cover or they're not. There's only times like a bigger case I would think is something like Polar Lands, where a guy just barely ducks behind cover, and there's the question of, I could technically see him, but I couldn't acquire the lock. Is that fair? Or on the other hand, I was able to lock onto his box just a little bit above, even though he technically was behind cover. Is that fair for me to acquire the lock? Because now I can, use target decay and whatnot to fire an LRM volley at him, and there's no cover really in Polar Lands. But that's just, I think, issue. That's just always going to be the fuzziness of LRMs in general. The direct fire thing, just for the most part, means if you are moving up and getting your own line of sight on the target, your LRMs will be a lot quicker to the target, and they'll feel more impactful, or they will be more impactful, which encourages this more direct play style with LRMs, which I very much I approve of or agree with.
Oh yeah, I do
That
too.
should be
Actually,
how they do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you should play like LRMs between 300 and 500, no problem. Basically, and just to share armor and everything.
Especially if you're an assault, please move up.
No, hang out 1,100 meters. Just put range stuff on it, and hopefully, basically, yes, that's what you've got to do.
No, bad bomb.
Bad
No.
bomb. Bad bomb.
None of that. Paper tip to your face. No, none of that. Please be at least 300 to 400 meters is fine.
Yeah. Other little changes are obviously the changes to heat penalty. So currently you can only fire 3 LRM5s at once, but they're upping that in the PTS to 4 LRM5s at once.
Oh,
but
yay.
For the most part, though, the way they've done it is the bigger the LRM launcher, the more heat efficient. So you don't want to take lots of little LRM5s. You want to take the bigger launchers because firing big clumps of LRM5s gets toasty fairly quickly. Whereas firing a good old chunky LRM20 is pretty heat efficient. It's in fact like more heat efficient than a UAC.
And plus, it's better to get past like AMS systems as well too.
Yeah, it depends on the tech base, but yeah, very much so. For in a sphere, you want to fire 2 LRM20s because that's a solid blob of 40 missiles coming out instantly and impacting the target. Whereas firing 4 LRM5s together, an LRM20 basically is it's okay. It's half as good.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, who knows exactly? We'll have to wait and see what results they get. This PTS was only 4v4, I think, and from what I've gathered, at least, there wasn't necessarily that many people playing it. A lot of queue times for those who were talking about trying the PTS out. I think they should have advertised a lot more, and I didn't even see it on my first reading that you will be gifted like MCC bills and GXP to aid with testing. Oh, is
They
that
usually do that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a PTS account, yeah. But I don't think there's a reward for actually your main account. Like before they did this Cicada Warhorn, like a unique Warhorn if you take part in these PTS sessions. And I didn't really see any big, huge... Like you want this as a separate, obvious bullet point. You get a freebie if you do this. Please play 5 games.
Yeah, that actually, the food pellet system, just like when they have like food pellets for events for faction warfare, people jump in because they want that food pellet. Same thing with this one. They actually didn't do that. You're right about that. Damn, that's probably why there wasn't a big turnout though.
It's also really weird, a 4v4 slap fight. Who wants to sign up for that?
Well,
and there's plenty who sign up for it because they're going to take a brawler and punch the lone guys in the face.
Well, like on Snuggles Times' channel, we did 12 versus 12 like learn fights. They were actually a lot of fun. They were a blast. But yeah, like you're right about that though. It's just
but in general, at least you have to download the separate client, launch the game, wait and find a match. You jump in your learn boat, and then you have to outfight the other learn boats, or try and just be upset when the brawler gets close. You're like, but we're testing learns, you fool. So yeah, I think I'm very much a fan of the difference between direct fire and indirect fire. The slight changes to numbers here and there. I don't think it really changes things much with such a fuzzy weapon system. The 40 to 45% reduction to time to target if you have direct line of sight is a huge buff to streaks and ATMs.
Yeah.
And somewhat LRMs as well at direct fire, close range. Like they could be as quick on the draw, or at least they're quick enough on the draw to, if you have a laser boat, it takes you, they have a durations of 1 second or 0.9 seconds or whatever. In that time, the learn boat's going to lock onto you, fires missiles, and they'll fly directly at you, and they're going to basically trade equally to you. I mean, they splatter still, but before, if you had a laser boat, sometimes you could poke out, and get into cover before the LRMs arrive. With 40 to 45% increase on the lock to time speed, the learn boat could actually equal out that trade much more consistently.
Yeah. I mean, like we'll see. Basically, like once if they do like implement this in February or whenever they're going to be doing this, and then like Ian said, no one really, the turnout was really low, so they might do this again. Like say like next week, get more people and give a food pellet saying, hey, you get a free Warhorn if you do this, or 2-minute like Seabills or something. So they might do that, but it just all depends. So it just depends.
All right. So shall we move on to this month's patch notes?
Yay!
Yay!
Patch notes. That came last night, though. But I was reading a little bit like of them, like, oh, that's interesting. That's like I didn't think they actually have a patch notes because usually have it during when they have a new mech coming out.
Well, I was expecting a new patch. It's a patch every month, and it can always do balance changes. I was expecting the patches usually come. They get like the first or second week of the month, and like it's in the middle of the month.
Yeah.
Whereas this one's coming out on the 22nd, which is towards the end of the month.
Yeah, so I guess maybe they're gonna have a close patch next month as well. On the, it's usually on these.
Yeah,
their
whole schedule might have been moved along so that they deliver patches and new mechs towards the end of the month.
I wonder.
Yeah, the patch notes. It's small. They really didn't change much or do different things per se. Like the weapon retrofits. That's okay. That looks cool now. Slurs 4. They did stuff for that. Hey, I guess beating a dead horse is kind of cool, I guess.
If you're one of the higher ones up there, like particularly number first, you get 5,000 MC. That's pretty good. Yeah,
for the 16 people that play, this is awesome.
Well, exactly. You just need to beat the other 15 people, and you got 5,000 MC. Do that on each division or whatever, and oh boy.
Now, actually, I know we kind of beat Slur 7. I love the concept. It's just no one does it. Basically, I sat in there, I actually tried now. I sat in there for 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, really? There's no one playing. There's maybe 3 people playing on all the divisions, and that's it. And I just came to certain realizations, okay, I'll just go back to quick play. And like I keep on saying, Slurs should have been cool a concept, but they should have put their resources towards quick play. That's what everyone plays. Cool concept, but put the resources towards quick play, better maps, different game modes, just whatever. Who knows?
Yeah, because when you divide the players from 3 different game modes, it gets to be a little, we're getting a little strung out a little bit.
Yeah, and plus it's called Solaris Leg Match, and that's all it is. All the times I played it, everyone just goes for legs, and just it's like I win. It's like, okay, no real tactics, no real anything else.
Oh yeah.
It really depends on the weight category. The Division 1 with the assaults, I think AC2s, you just call people out rather than going for legs.
Yeah.
Because people can be hull down, or leg down, so to speak. Whereas CT, you can always shoot the CT. That's the quickest kill.
No, the quickest kill is the nuts. You gotta enough punch in the nuts, man. That's the quickest one. Okay.
Well, remember, there are people who play this game who are not male. Just keep that in mind.
Oh, okay, that's right. That's right. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
So we're talking about shooting the enemy mech in the nuts. Now, what gender do mechs have?
Oh, whoa. No, we're gonna get topical all of a sudden.
This isn't Transformers. Come on.
Hey, remember, my wife and we do read the Transformers comics, and there's no gender, but they do have partners. Keep that in mind.
I have a question. How do they make babies with Transformers? I'm just curious.
Okay, the baby. Okay, we're going here now. We're going off topic.
Yes,
all right, fine.
Go make babies with Transformers. Come on.
We're going off topic. Okay, fine. So
when you love a Transformer factory, Mother Factory very much.
Incorrect. There is no actual mating to make Transformer babies. Instead, they are all spawned from the Earth or their planet of Cybertron. I forget the area that it's called in, but they are birthed there, and then those are the original ones. But there are ones that are made, and there's actually a very, not like in depth, but a somewhat of like a race war of you were either born from the planet or we made you in the foundry. So there's not much about the birthing of the Transformers. Instead, they're either, oh god, I'm trying to remember the actual terminology. I should really even know this by now. But yes, they're hold constructed. Those are the ones that they build, or there's the other one where they're birthed from their planet.
So let me get this straight though. So basically, Mr. Hardware Guy decides, hey, you're gonna be a male, and hey, you're gonna be a female, based on what they build. What's the criteria?
No, so there is no gender. There is no gender with any of them.
Hold on, wait a second. There were pink mechs out there though, man.
That doesn't matter. There is no gender. is that that basically whenever the Transformers left their planet and they had gone to other planets, they're like, huh, these other bioorganism things, they have multiple genders for some reason. Oh, this is why they work like that. Okay, well, now we get it. This is pretty cool. I want to go ahead and be seen as this, and I will change my chassis to be this.
Wait a second.
So-
Hold on. In the last movie, they did have the female one that actually hasn't been to Earth yet in the Bumblebee film.
Wait, which one? Oh, that's RC, but and like I said, she has no gender.
Well, obviously she has a. Okay, we're yeah.
Listen, we're talking Cybertronian, man.
Okay.
RC has no gender, and essentially, like I said, they had actually in the comics, like I said, so she wanted to be seen as like that quote unquote gender, and then they, yeah.
But they didn't know about genders because they were built in the factory. See what I'm going to?
Exactly, but they only found out about genders when they had gone to other planets.
But the problem is, though, they didn't.
Oh, Bob,
Okay,
Larsh, this is all a consequence of anthropocentrism, and it's not actually really about the law.
Exactly.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
let's get back to our topic on hand.
Okay, let's go. Okay.
Okay, so to remind everyone, we were trying to talk about the patch notes.
But there's not many patch notes there, so we had to go off topic for like a 5-minute tangent.
We have plenty of topics this week.
That's true. There's plenty of topics, but the patch notes are slim.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so Solaris season is wrapping up, so a whole bunch of stuff being given out just like last time. They're doing some changes to the spectator mode, changing it's they're trying to populate the list so you can spectate more. I don't know many who do spectate, if any, and it has to be still a certain threshold between players to populate the list. So
Yeah.
a certain level of ELO. It's not just all the matches you can spectate, which is a bit of a shame. And I wonder how many matches there really are going on. Bolt-ons are being put on for the Hatamoto Chi and Charger. Prominent most
Samurai
is
sword.
Hatamoto Chi. Yep, you could get samurai swords and whatnot on that.
All right.
Now the problem with the Spectre changes that I had before is there's no set time as far as old Bob will fight beef or something like that at 8 p.m. So you literally have to be watching at that certain time if they're actually playing with a low player base. And so the whole concept is actually kind of null and void unless they put it onto like not a pay-per-view, but like a video on demand or something like that. That'd be a lot better if they did that. Because you have to be like right there and then. It's like, yeah, okay, Bob's fighting now. Let's go check him out. But like if I'm not doing it at a certain time period, you're just looking at a blank screen.
That would be interesting if we could like do scheduled like matches between certain people.
A schedule could be somewhat easily done, though. Recording a match is something and like a huge technical hurdle I don't think is necessarily worth it, though. It would be cool if MWO put that kind of feature in, like, just even quick play. You could rewatch your quick play matches and see where that guy who killed you actually was. But for the most part, I think that is way out of scope for BGI.
But it really makes no sense for the spectator mode, though. That's what that's what we're trying to get to. It just makes no sense whatsoever to go and have that out there because you never know when the guys will be fighting at a certain ELO like level, But they did bring up the level, so that's good. So we just start watching matches and stuff like that. But they should just bring it to everybody because there's no real time that people play. They jump in and go, okay, I'm going to do Slayer 7 now.
Yep.
Mhm.
At least making it more likely to be able to watch the one match that's going on is an improvement for the one time someone really wishes to watch it in a few months' time.
Yeah. Weapon changes.
All right. Yeah, whole bunch of weapon changes.
Yeah, what do we got?
10% loss of velocity in AC2s, Ultra 2s, LB2s. They're still pretty darn fast, so they're just a little more harder to snipe across the map. But I never really thought of them as a weapon that, like 800 meters, it still takes them a bit to get there.
Yeah.
So they're talking about focusing a component. Well, not really. It seems a pointless change mostly. I think AC2s, the AC2 family is quite strong right now. So, it is worth slightly reducing their viability. But Yeah, I've seen some mechs at very long range trying to AC2 spam, but there's, if you're moving and twisting, you're still able to spread damage fairly well. This just means against, if you're a medium mech or so, you have a much better chance of dodging, I would say. Whereas heavies
Yeah.
and above, usually when I'm using an AC2 against a heavy or above, they're so slow or big. My objective is just to spray them with fire. The AC2 is to soften them up, not to focus down a component, unless they're stupid and stare at you. Yeah, so a little change there. Streaks. Now, if this goes along with the other change, oh god, how well I do at streaks. The streaks are going to be insane. But they're changing the damage curve of streaks to be kind of like a bell curve. Most of it is trying to focus on the center torso, then the sides, and then a lot less on the extremities. So they're basically trying to weigh the streaks to be much more torso oriented. They're trying to coil people out rather than splatter people to death.
I like that change.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, people's common complaints about streaks is, of course, they splatter all over the place, try and take every hit point the enemy has. But as at least our group could probably attest to, I with streaks take everyone's hit points and then take someone else's, just go across the map and take everyone's hit points. So me taking everyone's center torso hit points is crazy powerful, at least if they facing me head on. The rationale for this does make some sense for your average player, at least. When they tightened up the scope where you could actually lock onto people, so you may have noticed, light mechs, if they're scurrying about, a nearby streak mech doesn't lock onto them very quickly sometimes because they actually have to keep their reticle right perfectly on that light mech as it skitters about. And a lot of players really struggle to keep up. I don't personally have that problem, which means streaks have just been effective as ever for me.
I got that problem.
I see a lot of people before this change. I'd give people a streak build, and I knew they could easily play it because streaks were sort of a very lazy, easy way to play. Whereas now, just the aiming game is pretty tricky for a lot of players out there, and to really use streaks properly, you need to have a very good footsie game on top of the very good aim game, which is a very high skill ceiling to it. So it does make sense to give streak keys a buff. It's just with the PTS, they're planning a huge streaky buff. So you might need to roll this back if you give them the 40% also faster locking on time. That'd be crazy good. I'm looking forward to both of these changes, at least as long as nobody else uses streaks. Otherwise, it might just turn into Streak Warrior Online. Oh god.
Oh man,
I don't want to see that.
Shenanigans.
I don't want to see that.
I want to see it for a week.
No, Streak Warrior Online. Yeah, I would want to see that though. Streaks has always been fun to go ahead and use, especially against a lighter mechs. It's been one of the things that you have to have against those guys.
Yeah, I like streaks in their current position though, a bit like LRMs. They're blunt force trauma, but they're also just softening the opponent for precision builds.
Yeah.
And that way, even though they have a very reliable hit chance, you're trading that, of course, for the fact that you're unable to focus damage for the most part. These changes, I feel, it removes the distinction, at least a little bit in some ways. I'm perfectly fine with these weapons being incredibly good at causing a lot of damage, but also being splattered all over the place. You get into very scary territory where you have a weapon system that's very good at dealing damage and deals it to just the component you want without aiming.
The center torso will be actually one of the things that will be going first. So, I mean, it's a good thing, especially if they're actually low. And so running streaks, I usually run streaks instead of like anything else because I love using the streaks, playing with the and playing with you guys. Especially during the the faction warfare stuff, like during scouting. It's awesome. I love it. And so I'll probably just be using streaks most of the time, like anyways, because of this buff.
Yeah, I mean, I feel most happy and comfortable in the MW if I'm in the streak mech, and so this is just this is pretty nice for me. But I kind of like it being my own little niche. I'm scared when they start buffing streaks because eventually they might realize how overpowered streaks are.
So, but also in that case, for our audience, just going down the row here, what is our favorite streak mech to use?
Oh god, that's easy.
Biter,
Hellspoon.
Hellspoon. All right, so then I always use either the Black Lantern or the Arctic Wolf.
I use the Kentaro, and it just works for me.
Oh yeah, that's another solid one. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a solid one.
So yeah, so those people who want to get on the quote unquote streak train, go ahead and get any one of those. They're really good.
Close is mandatory.
And Hellspawn is pretty decent because they really fast, agile mechs with ECM, so they're able to outflank. The Katara is great for scouting, but in quick play, it's kind of like a frontline mech, and it can really be hard to find just the right engagements.
Yeah.
Whereas the Hellspawn with the 10% range buff and ECM and the Arctic Wolf with the ECM, the Omni mech, are both able to outrange the opponents. So, they have decent range, 340 meters, 400-meter range streaks. They just orbit the enemy at long range and just splatter them with missiles. It's great. And whilst they can't, they're invisible to their sight.
And Ian says a blackjack as far as a streak mech. I mean, it does work. It's harder to play, but it is a viable.
We're talking about the loyalty one, right?
Yeah, loyalty one. Yeah.
Yeah, the missile blackjack, obviously.
Yeah.
There's no other blackjacks with missiles.
Well, for those of us who are new to the podcast, new to the game, they might want to know.
Yeah, true.
Try streaks on the blackjack one. It's got 2 ballistic hard points. Just complain at PGI if it doesn't work.
So they actually did some really good changes to the mech quirks, the Javelin and the Hunchback, which I was kind of surprised on. I mean, they should have done this anyways for the 4P, for the medium laser one. They gave it +2 quirks or +2 HSLs, which is nice for the medium laser. So you can actually fire all of them if you wanted to, which is cool. And the Javelin, they gave the medium laser one +1 quirk as well, according to lore, which is great. I love that new quirk, man. That's a great quirk.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a practical sense, the Hunchback one does seem pretty decent. You can have the head-mounted one, the 6 in the hunch, and the one in the right arm, all 8 medium lasers fired at once. And you can obviously take a whole bunch of heat sinks to try and keep that running. No other mech will be able to fire that amount of medium lasers all together at once without ghost heat. The Javelin, on the other hand, whilst I approve of it being more lore-friendly, it is, not able to really take the cooling to keep all how many medium lasers? Like 7 medium lasers firing. That's a pretty
like that, yeah.
It's a pretty toasty build. And it's lost the survival in its right arm with 3 of the medium lasers are for this quirk, and the Hunchback as well has lost its tiny little energy quirks. So my Hunchback, I ran it with something like a triple, double large pulse laser or something like that. And this just means if you're not running the medium laser stuff, you are getting a nerf. When in the end, I never really got the idea that, the Hunchback 4P was just on the verge of being awesome. But now, with its ability to fire 8 medium lasers, it will take over the world. No, you could have just added the heat scale limit and not needed to, remove its positive quirks. I mean, oddly enough, at least, obviously, that Hunchback was a common mech in competitive, and I'm not sure what it will be next season, but this will have a knock-on effect with the stock build if the stock meta continues. Oddly enough, I think what does it come stock? Isn't it 8 mediums? Yeah, so it'll be able to fire all 8 properly in future stock meta, if that is a thing.
Still, it's I think it's pretty good. Although losing the energy cooldown and the heat gen really kind of sucks, though. I mean, it's only 5%. That's not too much, and losing those is really going to hurt it, though, for the 4P.
My biggest loss is just, I think, the heat gen for the Hunchback 4P. That little extra 5%, reduction in heat is sometimes the difference between overheating and being able to just fire that one extra laser.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, Panthers have basically received 10% range quirk across the board. All their range quirks have been consolidated. This is, for the most part, not much of a change for most builds. I think, though, if you're running mediums, larges, that kind of stuff, that extra range does actually give it a bit more reach, which is something the Panther kind of needs and feels appropriate for the Panther.
Yeah.
I also often use streaks in them, and streaks are getting a huge buff and whatnot. So hooray, long range Panther streaks.
I'm kind of happy about the kitty cat getting a +10 range quirk. So the snub nose that I use on him would actually do a little bit better.
Usually, the range quirks aren't, the biggest deal, but every little helps sometimes, particularly if you know how to use range quirks. So
Yeah.
I like these changes.
Mhm.
And for some reason, the 10p is getting a heat improvement because it already has the range quirks. This is kind of it's okay. I do remember back in the day I ran something like LP10 and 2 streak 2s, and it would get hot on terra firma. But otherwise, most people usually run 2 LB2s on it, and it's not getting hot anytime soon. It needs the standard lava to get hot, probably, and that's just because it's lava. It always heats mechs up.
Yeah, doing a lot of changes to the blackjack though.
Yeah.
Is there one to loyalty? Because I don't see the loyalty one on there. Yeah, actually,
I don't see it on the list.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so well, a lot of the blackjacks had a dissipation quirk back in the day because they had sub 10 heat sinks in the engine, and they left that dissipation quirk over from when they changed all the heat sinks to be the same effectiveness in terms of dissipation. Funnily enough, though, blackjacks like the 1X, of course, never got this dissipation quirk because they could take engines larger than 250. But if they have a dissipation quirk, I think they are losing it now.
Yeah,
across the
looks
board.
like it.
The Blackjack 2, the Loyalty Blackjack, never got the dissipation quirk, or at least it doesn't. Oh, it does have it right now. Oh, silly me. Okay, yeah. So the Blackjack, the Loyalty one is the Blackjack 2. Yeah, it's losing its heat dissipation quirk. But yeah, instead they are receiving a 10% heat quirk, weapon heat quirk. Or 5%.
That's actually good. That's really good, especially for if you use a streak boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think on the whole, weapon heat quirks are more valuable than the same numbers or smaller numbers of the dissipation quirks. I might be wrong on that, but I have a feeling it is. You're able to fire 10% more, basically, whereas dissipation is a much more complicated calculation.
Yeah.
I think the PPC Blackjack, the Blackjack 3 got a 5% heat gen for PPCs added. It's slowly catching up to how it used to be. Don't worry, PGI. It used to be something like 20% or 10 to 20% like heat reduction. Sadly, the Blackjack 3, the PPC Blackjack, it was beautiful back in the day, but then PGI nerfed it into the ground, and it is slowly getting unnerved out of the ground. Though it's still stuck fairly deep down there. It's still in the caves, but it's got a little light now.
Is it in the caves with the mole people?
Yes. All right,
dude, you're gonna never live that down. That is such an awesome episode. I love that episode. That was great.
Yeah. All right. Hellspawns across the board are getting agility stat increases. The biggest stat I feel was probably the hero. For some reason, the hero had absolutely gimped agility because it had a few extra energy hard points. The Hellspawn that can't take jump jets got a tiny agility increase, which is a real pity since it can't take jump jets. But yeah, I like Hellspawns, and I'm just they're giving me all my favorite mech is the Streak Hellspawn. The Streaks are now much better, and the Hellspawn is way more agile.
Guy played
the Hellspawn.
Yeah, guy played the Hellspawn last night, and I actually had a blast with it. It was a lot of fun to play. Although I did tank it a little bit much than what I should, and it should have did some other things. But still, it's a lot of fun to play. That thing is a tough little mech.
I gave him the Hellspawn with the range quirks, so the first thing he does is charge towards the enemy.
Exactly. See, you know,
that 10% range is really helping out. All right, here's a big one. I think at least it could very much be so. The Piranha is getting a whole bunch of nerfs across the board.
Ooh,
yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the Piranha, I'm kind of glad to see what they're doing. They're nerfing the Piranha.
Looks like all the legs are being the bonus leg structure is being like removed, which is awesome. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, Piranha's always. I mean, they only got like 4 extra structural say, but then you add on top of that skill tree, and it becomes a little finicky to leg, particularly when you're, it's such a teeny little thing running at such a high speed. The torso yaw for a lot of the variants is also being reduced from 120 degrees to 100 degrees. So the Piranha is going to struggle a lot more with just turning and firing at opponents as well, which has a knock-on effect of it's hurting its agility, which means it's easier to hurt its legs.
Yeah, this is a nerf. I think everyone's going to go, yay, finally this is happening type thing. So, I mean, like,
unless you're a Piranha pilot.
Yeah, unless you're a Piranha pilot. But yeah, this is a nerf everyone's going to be excited about, to tell you the truth. It's big time.
I mean, in some ways, I feel a little sorry for Light Mechs because possibly we have 2 huge streak buffs coming. And the Piranha is just... like all the Light Mechs are getting left behind because for some reason streaks suddenly become god. Because I felt like it.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, the Piranha is so much more powerful than the other Light Mechs. It is always still a glass cannon, but they are accentuating its glassiness, which has always sort of been like the Piranha doesn't want to run into the middle of the enemy team. Everyone shooting at it will kill it fairly quickly, even in its current state. But this further accentuates that. You cannot take any risks with a Piranha. But if you get if you jump on top of a occupied opponent and who's got open components, you can chew them apart.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't mind these changes.
I don't mind them either.
Yeah, I feel at least my only concern is a little bit that Light Mechs are just a weird spot overall. At least they have to be super tanky like Wolfhounds, Urban Mechs, or they have to have super amount of firepower like Piranhas, or you have like the 2 energy Spider who says, I have super cap accelerator, and we say, there, well done.
Well done.
At least you have that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just there for moral support. Come on.
I mean, at least they gave him something, but there's a lot of Light Mechs out there, sort of like the Osiris or whatnot, that just, on average, don't see that much play because they don't have that super tankiness and they don't have that super firepower available to them.
Mm-hmm.
Arctic Cheetah, they got some stuff added to it. Target delay duration. Oh, that's interesting.
Well, first, all the Arctic Cheetahs are getting a slight buff in agility. It's only a very tiny buff, really. And yeah, they're giving it sensor quirk type stuff that most people don't really notice.
Or use.
I really like the improvement to the Arctic Cheetah B side torsos. The ones that gave it increased turn rate, because I actually used those. Being able to circle people very, very quickly for an Arctic Cheetah caught a lot of people off guard. So I actually used the right torso often. And increasing that from 3% to 10% actually makes it worthwhile taking no hard points there for a change. Thank you, because otherwise I was just using it for the laser AMS, which was still funny.
I mean, overall though, they did a massive increase for the Arctic Cheetah, and just like you said, like a lot of people don't use the sensor stuff like anyways, but or build their builds around it. They build it on like how many solar lasers I can put on this, or like what can I do for this. But like overall, the Larsh Cheetah does actually a lot of good stuff, though.
Well, I think in the end, at least, Omnipod should be a lot more about choice. Like, oh, do I want the energy hardpoints, or do I want the really interesting quirks?
Yeah.
And actually having powerful, more interesting quirks on these things is I approve. Because before I was taking it for the quirks, but they were only 3% turn rate isn't changing the world. It's just happened I was using Omni set bonus and all that. But make your Omni mechs more quirky, particularly Arctic Cheetahs who are sort of lagging behind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Executioner got a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
HSL, okay.
Now, one question. Okay, so the torso yaw is being increased by 10 degrees, so it can turn its torso around, shoot at targets on the move a lot more easily. I like that change. Torso turn speed has also been increased. Now, turn rate. This one is an interesting one because there's a lot of errors in their quirks documentation PDF. Right now, it has no changes listed whatsoever. And in fact, all the times they change deceleration, it just says #ref in capital letters ! So the PDF they put online actually had a lot of errors, at least when I was looking at it. In fact, the Arctic Cheetah, where they're changing the acceleration values, acceleration deceleration. Oh, sorry, the side torsos have acceleration deceleration, and they say the new values are just a lot of hashes, one after the other.
Yeah.
So when the patch comes out, I'm curious to see if the executioner even gets its turn rate boost, because I'm not sure they've actually entered it in their spreadsheets, and hopefully the game doesn't crash when they load these spreadsheets into the game.
Jeez.
Well, like I don't mind them making a couple mistakes, you know, but they'll fix them up later though, so that's not, it's not the major like issue. But
hopefully it's just the documentation. It's just I wish I could actually see the values, and in this one particular case, they did not actually put it in the documents.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, they've also done a new heat scale limit change to the Executioner A. It can now fire 3 large pulse lasers at once, but just like with the other heat scale limits earlier, it loses its 10% energy range quirk. Now, I actually have an Executioner A. It's the only Executioner I've mastered. I even got it a Franken pattern. I even put the one bolt on from that event we mentioned earlier. I actually quite like this mech. And this feels like in the end like a net, like the heat scale limit thing is interesting, but fitting 3 large pulse lasers is a lot of pod space for such a pod space limited mech. If you think Executioner builds, I think this is also, you know, it's Omnipod set bonus, but when you think Executioner builds, it's typically you're using, you know, small pulse lasers, medium lasers, MPLs maybe. You're using the tonnage efficient lasers, not large pulse lasers. It doesn't have the pod space. 3 large pulse lasers made sense on a direwolf because that thing has lots of pod space. Executioner, though, you fit the 3 large pulse lasers and everything else is needed for heat sinks. I guess the rest are just micro lasers at that point. But in the end, at least, I'm not really, you know, I'm not gonna. I've got a build. It's 2 large pulse lasers and 4 mediums.
Might have to rearrange that now.
I'm not going to rearrange it because I would have to take out, you know, the 4 mediums and couple heat sinks to take an extra large pulse for less firepower. And the thing is, I really like this Omnipot set bonus because it has 10% energy heat, which is really good for a laser boat, and 10% range, which allowed you to out snipe snipers, or at least you could, you know, be really flexible with your range. Like I have 750 meter range large pulse lasers or so. Like that's a really long range large pulse laser, and people just don't expect it from an executioner to be a long range medium laser large pulse laser mech. So in the end, my Executioner A is getting quite a big nerf, which I'm really disappointed about. I really like the Executioner A. Why did they have to ruin it like that?
I don't know. You know, basically, like I'll have to rearrange. I think I have one Executioner. I gotta go check and see. I think I bought it just because it's on sale, and that's it. It's like I gotta have one of every type of Omnimech, and I just gotta check it and see though.
Yeah, it really depends on which variant, but for me at least, as someone who actually does own the Executioner A, my build is getting nerfed, and I had a lot of fun with that build. And the 3 large pulse laser thing, it's cute, but there's no point to it. Use the dire whale. Use the large pulse laser dire whale.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
So I don't know why they feel like, oh, suddenly the 3 large pulse laser execution is just going to take the world by storm. No, large pulse lasers are not that meta right now. You don't see them that often. 3 of them at once is pretty cool. It's like 36 damage. But that's all you could do in that executioner for the most part, because it's going to be pretty toasty with 3 large pulse lasers and, you know, a couple mediums or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm sad that they're nerfing the Executioner A. It's an interesting quirk. I just don't see why they have to. You know, you punch them in the face and give them a box of chockies. Just give them a box of chockies. They need the help. Stop punching these mechs in the face. Are they a mole people to you?
Oh God.
Mole people?
Okay. If you guys don't understand what the mole people, I think it's episode 66. You got to watch it. It's
but
awesome.
Just look at the Executioner. It looks kind of like, you know, little mole head.
It does.
Okay. So Larsh, here goes your part of the podcast here. And okay, just go explain like everything about it and everything like from there. And I'll put the links down below to you guys.
No problem. All right, so we kind of announced it earlier in the podcast but I'm working on what's called a user CFG or a user config file for Mechwarrior Online. Now, before I get into the whole meat and potatoes of how this works and what it actually freaking does. And this is actually the reason why I've been quiet during most of the podcast, because I've been listening in, quipping in here and there, but most of my time has been testing out this this file in Mechwarrior Online. So to explain it, what does it do? It allows you to, in detail, change the graphical settings and other settings of a game based in Crytek or CryEngine to meet your personal needs or your hardware allowance, mostly. Now, as a small disclaimer, this is it is not cheating. It is seen, if you go on the Mechwarrior Online forums, people make these files under the support and feedback and workaround portion of the forums. And you'll find certain people who want to tweak the game a little bit to meet their own needs, and they post them in there. Now, disclaimer number 2, make or create your own file at your own digression. Tweaking a lot of things can really break the game, but tweaking a lot of things can actually fix the game if you're having frame rate issues and that kind of thing. So yeah, so 1, it's not cheating. 2, it can really muck up your system or give you a boost if you need it. If you don't need a boost, don't use it. You're fine. So with that out of the way, what it actually is and what I've been doing with this thing. So I've been using one of these files in my Mechwarrior Online install folder for the past year because my machine, the hardware, except for the graphics card, is about circa 2009. So I've been getting some frame rate issues here and there. And after a few patches, things have just been kind of getting laggy, especially during LRMs in games. So I wanted to go ahead and retweak this file. Now, the one that I found at the very, very, very beginning was on the Mechwarrior Online forums under a user named Narkbait. Narkbait, if you're out there and you are listening, thank you for putting out that massive file. I'm sure we've all used it who are using it out there as a way to learn about this and to really get into it, because this file, by reading through all of your notes out there, I've been reading a whole lot into it just to self-teach myself what this actually does. Now, there were a few things out there that weren't on that initial file that I've been researching, not on the Mechwarrior Online forums, to add in a few things just to kind of play around with it. So I'm actually in the final stages of, I think, getting this file to work on the way I want it. And then also, too, is that to kind of probably explain for those of you who are watching, this is all going over your head, and you're like, why would you want to do this? So in Mechwarrior Online, if you go into your video settings and you go under advanced, and you can set like from various things from low to ultra high or whatever it is in there for like effects, detail, and all that, those parameters are only going to affect certain things. And instead of going into every single one, I think we'll maybe just do 1 or 2 examples to maybe just give you some reasoning of what this actually does. So the one reasoning I'm going to go ahead is, for example, particles. Particles give a lot of problems for everyone. Particles are those little light effects, all the little details that happen whenever a mech blows up. All those little sparks, those are all particles. Or the things, all those little floaty bits in the map, those are all particles. When you are in the game settings and you put that thing to low, it turns them all off. So you see a lot less detail, and you will probably most likely not see any glow from lasers when it is hitting an object. Once you put it up to medium, it puts it at that lowest setting, and you begin to see some things. Putting it, of course, to very high, you're going to see a lot of particles, and you're probably, most likely, if your machine's older, you're going to see some frame loss. So what I wanted to do is that I was running it on either low and not seeing anything, or medium, but still getting some frame loss. So I wanted to go ahead and solve that. So what this is that this is actually a text document, and you actually need 2 of them in your Mechwarrior Online directory folder. You need what's called a tuning folder, which is a text document that it's just a text document with 1 line that says execute user.cfg. That tells the game to execute this file to use it for the in-game settings. So then you go ahead and you make what's called a user CFG, which is a text document, but mainly you save it as user.cfg. and you can open it in Notepad, and you can add in a bunch of lines of text or code, which is for the CryEngine software, or it's or the engine itself. So, for example, I was able to go ahead and put my particles back down to low, which in turn would typically turn off the particles itself in Mechwarrior Online. But in the actual text file, I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up to it here, is that I went ahead and made a line that says E_particles. That now what that does, that's basically your on-off switch for particles. And then next to that line of code, you got to put a space, an equal sign, and then a corresponding number. Those numbers differ from code to code. So in this instance, in the in-game settings, if you're still following me here, guys, is that in the in-game settings, I have it exactly. I have it set to low. What I'm doing here is that I'm going to override it in this configuration file and I say E_particles equals 1. 1 in this coding, because it's either a 1 or a 0. 0 would be off. 1 tells it to put it to on. So I told the configuration file to put it to 1, to turn them on. Now, by doing that, it doesn't really tell you what levels of particles you want. So again, we're going to use this one as an example because I could spend a good 2 hours on everything I've done in this file. But for example, I then put E_particles quality as 2. In the actual Mechwarrior Online video settings, 2 would be your medium settings, that lowest setting to get some sort of particle element in there, okay? And then under that, I went ahead and tweaked it, because in Mechwarrior Online, if you put it to medium, it's going to turn on particle lights, it's going to turn on all these things that would bring your system down. So on mine, I went ahead and put E_particle lights equals 1. That turns on particle lights just to keep them there. But then the one thing after that is that there's a R_use particles half res. And it's either a 1 or a 0. 1 is on, 0 just turns it off, and it just puts them all to high. So what that does is that it brings those particles down to like a half resolution, if I'm reading this properly. So that brings your particles down to a half res, which will hopefully save you some frame rate issues. Oh god, oh god, I'm going way into it now. So then another, sorry, it's like I'm gonna try to keep it as short as I can, because I'm sure the audience is like, Larsh, what the F are you even talking about? But probably the biggest one also is there's a particle shadows one. I put that to 0, turns off all the shadows for the particles, because in this game it tries to put a shadow attached to every particle, and of course if your machine's trying to render every shadow, it's gonna lag. It's gonna lag behind. Okay, and then probably another big one is that there's actually a code to tell Mechwarrior Online, or basically anything in CryEngine, how many particles do you want to fill the screen. So this is probably one of the bigger ones out there, is that, if you put it to medium, it has a set default of particles to fill your screen. So your computer has to go ahead and render every particle. Well, I told it that that it goes in settings of like 16, 32, 64, 128, 160. I went ahead and put it real low at like 16. So putting that lowers the amount of particles that your machine's having to render, but it still puts in some sort of elements of particles, so it doesn't look like it's just an empty field. Or whenever you shoot a mech, it's not just a nothing explosion. You're getting some particles out of it. So it's one of those things where I've been working on this for some time, for about the past week. I was working on it during our podcast, just trying to quip in here and there. But I guess it's just what I'm trying to say is that if you have a low machine or a low processing power, these kind of things can help you. I'm trying to make one out there that will work for everyone. I've been posting on Twitter and on the Mechwarrior Facebook group out there. People have been testing it out and giving me some feedback, and I've been tweaking it ever so often, because like yesterday, when people would drop into a match, there's that portion when the dropship before it drops you off, you boot up your mech, the screen flashes, and then it drops you. The game would freeze for about 10 seconds during that initial screen flash. I went ahead and found the portion of the code that was causing the issue, so that's good and that's been fixed. Right now, I'm just trying to get some more tweaks. So for the most part, it's pretty much done. But there's just a few more things I wanted to tweak because I'm still getting some lag during some LRM frame rate. I'm just trying to see what that really does or is. So yeah, so that's what I've been trying to do. The big ones out there are particles and water. I've lowered the water down real low. So the water, because that's one thing too, is that if you pan across the map and you see all these waves, those waves render a lot of detail for a map, and that causes a lot of frame issues. So, but there's no drop down Mechwarrior Online for water effects. It's just under environment. And then one of my other favorites is there's one for vegetation, and I found there's a setting, and you can actually tell the game to render vegetation, so trees and whatnot, as sprites and not 3D objects at a certain distance. And that actually allows for some for some more frames because it's not trying to render a 3D object at a long distance. Instead, it's just a pre-rendered sprite. So it's like a 2D object. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Like I said, I could go really, really, really into it. If you guys had any kind of questions, or actually when this video goes live on Monday, I will check the comments if people want to know more about it. But I think we are going to put a link to my Google Share Drive of my file for this user config, where to install it, and the actual in-game settings that I'm using, because it does affect how this actual file works as well.
Yeah, plus also like any other types of links you have, just let me know. I'll go put in the notes down there.
Absolutely.
So, Larsh, when's the book coming out?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still working with the book publisher on that one. We've had some issues.
Yeah, Amazon though.
I know a team. You should call it was it MWO user config files for dummies.
There you
go. You know what? That would be a very good video, actually. And just
actually do print on demand too.
Yeah, there you go. It's going to be available on Amazon Kindle and everything else out there. Go on the Google Play.
Dude, my eyes, I'm sorry, my eyes glossed over it, and I'm looking at...
No, it's all right.
Oh, God.
But yeah, but this is just one of those things that that typically I don't tweak a game unless I get to a point where I'm just like, you know what, I want to go ahead and try it out. I've been playing Mechwarrior Online since like 2014. It's one of those things that I probably didn't have to do, but I want to do. It's just something ingrained in me, because I remember I did the same thing back when it was Star Trek Legacy. If you guys ever played that game, and that game was buggy as shit when that came out. And I remember being like right out of college. That was like 2008 or 2009 or something like that when Trek Legacy came out. And I tweaked the heck out of that back and forth. And there's just a lot of interesting things you can do to make a game perform better. And for those of you out there who are playing the game and they're like, Mechwarrior Online, it's not optimized. Why don't the people optimize stuff? I can tell you, because this is some background optimization. And honestly, because we know what PGI only has like a few developers, whenever you go ahead and you change a bit of code, because one thing about this is that to test this shit out, you need to edit this config file, put it in the folder, boot up the game, test it out. If that file doesn't work properly, you need to turn off the game, find the code you changed, add some more code, put it back in the folder, then turn the game back on. It's not like you can do this on the fly. So like, it is just constant changes, and I can see why PGI doesn't maybe have the resources or time, because this is a very time-consuming process where like after work, I've been working on this for the past week, and I'm really happy to do it because I enjoy doing this stuff because I'm just a nut job. But for your standard person, it would be like, why the hell are you doing this?
Yeah, and just a disclaimer, if you don't know what you're doing, either ask Larsh or try not to do it yourself. Yeah, or just don't do it.
Wait until the book comes out.
Wait till the book comes out. Config files for dummies.
Config files for dummies. So, like I said, I think I'm pretty much got it almost to the point where I want it. I just changed some areas in the actual game engine that were causing some lag, I think, because there's some areas in there where you can actually pre-cache or preload a whole entire like section of a game before you even launch into a map. So I'm hoping that's going to change a few things.
Cool.
Yeah, so look forward to it. I know I've been updating it. If people have been testing it out and you're still getting lag issues, if you're out there on Twitter and you've seen my posts and you're still getting problems, its feedback is always good to know because that allows me to go back and change something that I may have put in there by accident. So if you are using it and there are problems, I apologize. Let me know in feedback and I can dig more into it. And if we can't fix it, don't use it.
So next we got the Marauder II Pre-order. For whatever reason you want this, I don't know. Who knows?
Okay, I just wanted to add this since obviously they actually have on the MWO website added the Marauder II Pre-order, even though you can get it for, along with the Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries.
Yeah.
It's the same standard pricing, and if all you're interested in is, for example, something like the standard pack, I'm not sure, there's the Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries Pre-order obviously starts at a higher level. I was curious though, since I have got the standard pre-order for Mechwarrior 5. I could also pre-order the standard pack of the Marauder. Obviously, I probably shouldn't. I'll get just 6 Marauders when the game when they come out. I just found that odd. But another thing, at least, I found really weird is just it's got they have the early adopters awards, but I think you're missing out on these if you get the Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries thing, which seems a bit sad. I'm not getting the Franken pattern. I don't really care for the colors or the
Wait,
decal.
really? You're not getting all those extras then?
I don't think you
You
do.
should be able to get those.
You should be getting those.
Yeah.
Because that'd be crazy if you weren't.
Yeah.
So, well, that's one question I have, at least for now, because I haven't definitively figured out the answer. Let's see.
I mean, hell,
It is called MWO Mech Pre-order. So technically, I have pre-ordered it, but hopefully their system has figured out, when I've pre-ordered it, it's eligible for the pre-order rewards, and it gives the war horns and whatnot. But that
now,
was
is this like a thing you just found out on your own, or did you hear this from someone else about that too?
Oh, just something I thought of my own. I was curious, whether their systems would be integrated, since I have already redeemed a code technically. So it should know I already own the standard pack. But will it actually implement the standard pack?
I mean, it should though.
It should. I mean,
I would think they're not going to make that big a mistake, because that would just be phenomenal for people to get it going. Where's my stuff at? Type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, they would have a giant uproar and pitchforks and everything if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't, well, I'm gonna be getting my popcorn ready.
Oh yeah, definitely. That'll be interesting to go watch actually.
Yeah.
How many free stuff we get.
There's at least obviously the question, what I was hoping for is, it's listed on their site when I'm logged in that I've got the standard pack. And that means if all I wanted was the hero on top of all this, I could just buy the hero. But as it stands though, I can't just buy the hero. I think I probably have to buy the standard first, don't I? Yeah, I quote unquote have to get the standard pack. Well, it's just a bit of a nuisance.
It is a little bit of a noise, yeah.
Yeah,
we'll see though.
Yeah, because we'll see what happens.
We'll see, but that's why I listed it as a topic, because I think it is an interesting question.
It comes out April 16th too, guys. So if you haven't picked it up, and also like I was looking at this too. If you buy the collector's pack, I'm literally the game. Well, actually, standard pack. If you buy the pre-order for the Mechwarrior 5, literally for $30, that's how much the game is for a not a triple title from Indie Tile. Actually, that's interesting. Because I'm gonna go on my Fallout 4 or a Fallout 76 rant. AAA titles better. Basically, this is probably gonna be better than freaking Fallout 76. Basically for the price wise, you're being charged literally only $30. You get the standard. You get the standard pack, so it's not bad. Not a bad deal.
I mean, do you still stream that?
God, oh God, hold on.
Well, no need to go and do a tangent pop. I was just
My-
asking if you're still streaming that.
My mind is screaming basically how dumb this company is, Bethesda. But the thing is, though, like I don't really stream it that much. I don't play it that much. The only reason why I play it is because I'm trying to make a video of Mad Bob getting pissed off at this game, but I'm trying to be fair too at the same time, trying to be fair and honest. But every single thing I see, I'm like, what the hell, and I can't be. It's hard for me to be fair and honest on Fallout 76, and I want to give a honest opinion about it. And I'm crying inside basically.
So I mean, obviously, Fallout 76 is offering like a co-op experience, but actually they were kind of obsessed by PvP for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mechwarrior 5 is cheaper pre-order. You get a whole bunch of extra stuff in Mechwarrior Online, and it's actually oriented around co-op, which is what people going for these games sort of want.
And it's $30 less too.
Yep.
Yeah, just interesting, just what they did, but. Anyways, okay, not about Fallout 76. Let's get to the pre-order of Mechwarrior 5. Yeah. You get to upgrade it. That's cool.
Yep. So they've managed to figure out a way so that you can upgrade. If you get the standard pack later on, you can upgrade to collectors or ultimate. So this is the Mechwarrior 5 pre-order. So you can upgrade those at a later point. The difference in price, I think, is the same as the difference on if you bought them originally, so you're not being charged more or anything like that. It's all good, and it's nice to be able to some people don't have all the money to buy, for example, the ultimate pack, but they want to chip in to start with, so they get the standard pack, and if they feel like it later, they have the cash, they can get the ultimate pack later. So yep, good. I just next step for PGI should be to integrate this Marauder II Pre-order with their own store page, just in case someone wants to upgrade to a hero pack or something like that.
Oh yeah.
No, that gets a bit convoluted because now, like, let's say I bought the hero, but now I want to upgrade to the ultimate pack. Am I going to get 2 heroes, or are you going to charge me $15 less? I'll leave that for PGI to fuss out.
And I think last but not least is the do you know how long the pre-order is going to be for? That's going to be like until it comes out, right?
I'm not too sure.
2 is until it comes out, but Mechwarrior 5, unless I haven't, it's to be decided, but at some point they're closing it down before it actually comes out on proper platforms. So there is a limited window, but that window is going to be open for many months, is my guess.
Okay, good. And next is AMA Fight Night. Let's get ready to rumble. Yeah, it was actually, I caught half of this, and because I was streaming it, I was watching somebody, and Brio said, "Hey, go check this out. It's on." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I forgot it was on, and it was interesting and a good idea that PGI does this. Granted, there are some dumb questions like out there, some for me, and there was actually a lot of good questions about the clans coming, are they gonna be elementals? And basically he went into a kind of like, yes, they will be coming after they do this. And one of the things also too about customization, you won't be able to customize like you can in Mechwarrior Online, but it's probably going to be just like how BattleTech is, where you could change your armor like based on like let's say you start at 30-25 and 30-40 you get in the timeline. 30-40 you're able to find ferrofibrous because it's now out on the open market, so you can change your mech ferrofibrous and do that kind of stuff. So it's not going to be like customization like we normally have now. You can't change your engine, can't do a couple things, but you could add armor, change your weapon like mounts and all that kind of stuff to different types of weapons. But pretty much it's going to be the same type of mounts as far as the ballistic, energy, and missile. Now, also he did say that the now from what I remember, this is all by chance here. He did say he doesn't know if he's going to be able to have it like in BattleTech, like after you finish, you could go around and do whatever you want to. They don't have plans for that yet, but I think that'd be a cool idea. You'd be merking it and just go off and do whatever you want to do, and based on like say a pre-done mission generator or something like that, that'd be kind of cool. But who knows? Like I said, I caught half of this. I didn't get much of it though.
Yeah, it seems like the other times they've taken questions, or I'll try to answer the question about Mechwarrior 5, they kind of had that at MechCon and such. My biggest interest, and the thing I feel like people aren't asking enough about though, oh yeah, it's interesting what kind of weapons you have available, how much you can customize mechs and stuff. Me. But this is not just a me on my own game. I mean, there's porn for that. There is a PvE game. And I asked a question. Sadly, it was a bit too late. But I hope in the future, at least, some people ask some questions about the AI director, what kind of features the AI has, etc., and how the actual battles play out, and how much control you have over for example, your AI companions, since it'll have a huge impact on how you can play this game, how the game feels like. I just wish people ask more questions, like along the lines of stuff like, will certain factions be, like for example, let's say Steiner typically will have heavier mechs, but they are not very well piloted or well led. Whereas Karita, they generally going to be much more aggressive pilots, for example, stuff like that. There were certain set of commands you could do in Mechwarrior 5. You could tell them to move to position, attack this target, etc., etc. There's just I'm much more curious about how the enemy will play out. Like, if you beat up a mech and it's basically sticked, will they try and hoof it from the field? Because, well, they can't do anything. Why would they just sit in front of you and wiggle when it's much better to just eject or run the mech off and have it repaired for another day? Why would they sit around and just wait to be killed? And I mean, that was the thing I saw with the Mechwarrior 5 demo a little bit, was the enemy sort of just rush in pell-mell, and battles sometimes sort of descend into a scrim, and some things like the Marauder with its 2 PPCs goes in for brawling range, so it can use those point-blank PPCs with that probably don't even deal damage. Well done, Marauder! Those, I think, at least for me, is a really important that something like the enemy do spotter mechs, long-range mechs actually snipe at you and don't try and brawl. That would always be a disappointment. Like, oh no, it's a Lerm Awesome. Oh, he came to brawl me. Well, thanks, Lerm Awesome. You just gave me an easy time. It's just all about the challenge, and sometimes, like, particularly I remember, like with games of XCOM or other FPS shooters, if you are firing a lot of damage down range, the enemy are going to hide. They're going to react to you. They're not just mindless turrets.
Yeah, XCOM was the only game I actually rage quit and almost tossed my computer like out the window. And the one like Terror from the Deep, those guys, I mean, the AI was just absolutely phenomenal of different things that I did. It pissed me off to no end. But one of the things he did mention, though, was there's not going to be any PvP because he wants to have Mechwarrior Online as PvP instead of PvP in Mechwarrior 5. And everyone's asking about it. Yeah. And another thing too, like when you do have co-op mode, like let's say Biter wants to come in, like, Biter, I need some help on this mission, or you want to just come on and go play, or Larsh as well, and say, hey, come on and go play. My progress is increased, but yours is not, as far as your as far as your progress, like in your game, since it's totally separate.
Yeah,
and then also,
that's normal.
And then also too, like the pilots in my game get actually XP based off what you do in my game. So like they'll go up in levels, or however the XP system is going to be. They'll go up in skills, skills basically, for my game, but not yours. And so, like, I mean, that was a cool idea, and that's kind of standard stuff that he was answering.
So you sort of say, I joined in play co-op with you, and one of your pilots becomes obscenely overleveled compared to the others.
Exactly. Just something like, I'm sure there's some skill cap limit or something, like permission or something like that, but at least it gains some points instead of just being there, and then like you get like 10 levels or like you as a pilot, you're 10 levels higher than your like AI guys, and they totally suck.
Yeah, I think there is a whole range of stuff you could do, but I think PGI, at least in their AMAs, have done a fairly good job for the most part, saying we've got an idea for a scope and we're sticking to it. In that case, it's like you can have mods, but if you're joining someone else's games, you have to install the same mods, that kind of thing. Just keep it simple, etc., because they're not a huge studio that's able to do a whole myriad of things that we wish they could, but they have to just make the product that the community can then pick up and work with.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I highly commend them for actually doing something like this, because it could turn out to be a S show, basically, but it actually turned out pretty well, and everyone was asking good questions, some bad questions, but in the most part, it was actually really good questions about how the game's going to work and what this is going to do and how that's going to work and everything. So it was good. I highly commend Mechwarrior and PGI for doing that. So I guess that's
I just want to know more about the enemies.
Yeah.
How's it to fight them? What do they try to do?
Next AMA, man, go and ask that. Do that kind of thing.
It's always funny how sometimes just the simplest changes, like, I mean, this isn't a good corollary example, but, was it people like talking about fear? Fear, the shooter.
Oh, yeah.
And, that game obviously very much more constricted environments. They have a lot of scripting about where the AIs, what paths they take. But the big thing that really, really made the AI stand out was just the fact that they had callouts, that the AI sort of talk to each other and it felt like they were real. And it's the thing is, at least with these big stompy robots, is it just simple things sometimes, like if you just set up an AI code, like the enemy notices you're reeling, that you're damaged, you have a voiceover saying something like that along the lines of, "They're wicked, get charged, men," and the AI tells all of their men, all of their mechs, to pile in, and you're just, that's an oh shit moment. And just, I mean, it's not a trivial thing to code like that, but just adding something like that in the game really makes missions much more than just a generic bland sandbox. There needs to be something the AI does in these auto-generated missions that it feels like it's planning, like, just like with Left 4 Dead 1, Left 4 Dead 2, there's like an AI coordinator that gives more to the proceedings than we threw random mechs, on random grid coordinates. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I was actually I didn't get an answer to was how long is the game, as far as how many missions are there, and then also, like, since you complete all the missions, let's say the game's like 35 hours or 40 hours, like whatever, and what happens then, basically, and just like like we were talking about, can't go about, but I'm wondering how many missions are there, and what's the gameplay time to go finish those missions, and like what do you do and everything. And I never got an answer from that though.
Yeah, I forget exactly, but they're not exactly doing a script. They're not really doing much of a scripted campaign. It's a sandbox experience mostly, isn't it? You could choose anywhere you start in here, and you just go around playing these auto-generated missions mostly. Like the Mechwarrior 5 demo, I recall them at least saying this, was that they made that tailor-made for showing off to the public. So
okay.
I'm not sure exactly that will turn into it's not like BattleTech where you have to go to X planet to do Y mission, though who knows, at least as BattleTech shown, you could do something like flashpoints, bespoke missions that are spread all over the map and give reasons for the players to go from A to B, and it's more than just always auto-generated missions. Just adding in flashpoints adds a lot more to the campaign experience than it just feeling like I'm always playing with sand.
Yeah. Playing with sand is fun though. You get to build things. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just sort of, you get to build your sand castle, and then in comes the Kraken.
Or in comes that bully that comes over and kicks your sandcastle and kicks sand in your face. Damn bastard.
Yeah. You got to see if your sandcastle stands up to the new bully in town.
Okay, 1970s. Okay. So I think that's it. That's all we have, right?
Yep.
Do you guys have anything else we can go add?
I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put all the different notes and everything else in the description, and Larsh, I'm gonna have to get some links from you, and hopefully my eyes won't gloss over. But yeah, man, pretty cool. I definitely enjoyed this. So this is the First Circuit podcast, number 69. And we have
Giggity.
Giggity.
Nice.
We have Biter.
Giggity.
And Larsh.
Nice.
And myself, old Bob, and Ian was on the phone, typing in chat.
Listening in.
Yeah, listening in.
He's listening in and giving us secret tips that the viewers will never know.
Exactly. Shh, don't
You just gave away our secrets.
But they don't know what he typed.
Who listens to the end anyway?
Actually, me, Biter, and Bob, we have no original thought. Everything we just said was all from Ian and just transcribed.
What's that, Ian? Okay, I'll say that.
We need the text to speech so that he can, speak from beyond the phone.
Yeah.
Like always, man, thank you for watching. You are part of the community, and we really do appreciate you watching the First Circuit podcast and everything you guys do for the community. And we'll see you on the battlefield.